All right, welcome everybody to another month of the City Brew Tours Beer Club, the CBTBC. I'm Jonathan, once again coming to you guys from New York to have beer from somewhere else. And of course, we're going back to the classics for all of our modern craft beer with our Burlington, Vermont box. I am not here alone this month. I've got Mike with me once again. Mike, how are you doing, buddy? There he is.
Good. How you doing, Jonathan?
I am doing fantastic. I've got some great beer ready to drink and just gonna chat about a wonderful place with that really some of the best beer in the country comes from.
Oh yeah.
So I think before, because it's been kind of hot here in New York, and I'm sure it is everywhere, we should get some of our drinking on before we start getting our talking on. So we are going to enjoy two classics from always some of the best breweries, but we are going to start with that Zero Gravity Green State Lager. Uh, Again, one of the old schools, oldies but goodies when it comes to beer. This one, classic Pilsner style. Gonna be a nice, easy, crisp. I think we're just gonna start drinking it. There it is. Oh, that crisp is there. We're gonna
This is
start pouring this.
this is a great lager, really reliable. Uh, it's funny how good it is. You're like, oh my, that's a beer's beer, you know?
Yeah.
We also have, I know we're not opening the Burlington beer, but I have my Burlington glass here today.
Ooh, that's a
Burlington.
fun. It's got a lot going on.
One of their beers is called the beer is called Choir of the Dead.
Choir of the Dead.
Choir of the Dead. It's really a Pilsner glass, but it's
I
it's
always love it when there's a really aggressive name for a Pilsner because it's such a nice, like, easy, you know.
well, Choir of the Dead
Nice.
is not a Pilsner. You can see the glass
Oh,
behind it.
okay. Oh, there you go.
It's an imperial stout.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, but this is the glass, and I think it works great for my pilsners.
And there it is. That's perfect. All right. Cheers, everybody. Here we
Indeed.
go.
Oh, there's those ghouls. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want. Nice, light, just getting that nice Pilsen malt. This does have two hops in it, which I kind of love for a Pilsner. They don't always do that. Sometimes you just have like one type of noble hops, but I do know in this one specifically, they use both. I know they use Hallertau and I'm gonna say right now,
Make it a good one.
I missed it. Oh, there it is. Millet Fruit and sauce.
Oh,
So they're
three
using
times.
three,
Three times,
using
yeah.
three in there. So you always want that Hallertau hops when it comes in on those. You want those noble hops, and the millet fruit. Um, but adding those saws in there, that's adding that nice little bite on that finish that you want.
Yeah, and it's got a really nice. I don't want to say dark, but it's not that light straw color. It's kind of a darker straw color
Yeah,
to it.
and I'm
And even though I
getting
put it up to the light, I still get a nice color. It turns a bit lighter, but oh man,
and I'm getting even a little bit of a haziness to it, which is kind of nice.
I just realized I haven't had a beer in a week, and that tastes good.
Oh. Well, this is a perfect one to
Like,
start off with
ooh,
before we jump into that double IPA.
I'm
So
back.
there you're all. Were you ever away, Mike? Were you ever away?
Not in my heart. Not
Not
in
in
my
your heart. No.
heart.
But we can't just enjoy, beer from Burlington or even Zero Gravity without really recognizing the history that is in Burlington. And of course, everyone gives them credit for being the most breweries per capita. Even though, as we all know here, when we had our main box, it does go back and forth. So, Burlington, Vermont's had them some years, Maine's had them others. It depends who you talk to on which one is better. they're both great. But
Well, you
even
know,
so,
which state brews the most beer overall?
I do.
You do.
I do.
Yeah, if you know, we won't tell. No, it's California.
Yeah, I was like, we'll tell. It's California. It is California.
That's where
They've
I am. I
all,
don't know if that
yeah.
was clear. I'm in beautiful
The,
Fresno, California today.
you also have the most breweries in the country,
No,
but you also have way more space than Vermont. So
it's a little bit bigger.
yeah, I think if we tried to hit 900 breweries in Vermont, that might be not a not a smart idea. There's not enough space for that.
I wonder how many Vermonts you could fit in California.
I think that's a question that we're going to figure out over this next hour. But I do want to say for all of our listeners and all of our guests that do come back every month for fun drinking together, learning about facts about all these different states, cities, and about the beers, all the fun, nerdy stuff, and all. I will say you guys have probably seen a pattern over the past couple months that sometimes we only have one guest. Tonight, it's just me and Mike hanging out, drinking, enjoying some Burlington beer. And that's just because we're in summer. And, sometimes people go on vacation. A lot of breweries also this time of year utilize this time because it can be sometimes slower because people are going to different parts away from their cities, from their states. So they're expanding either productions or doing a lot more of their brewing and kind of making some business changes. Also, 2024 has been a big change for the beer industry in general. And so a lot of companies and a lot of breweries are trying to find new avenues, new ways, and they're adjusting business models and things like that. So that has meant that we haven't had as many guests as we would like every month. However, as we're coming into the fall, we're going to be bringing people back in. Don't worry, we're not getting away from that. It's just summer and everyone's taking time off, which is perfectly fine. Um, I'm not taking time off. Mike's not taking time off. We're here. We're drinking with you guys. And RJ answered the question for us. 447 Vermonts fit in California.
I don't think that's right.
I, hey, I take it. I will take it right
Take it.
now.
I mean, I just read 17, but
447.
447 sounds like it makes it sound pretty good.
I like that one. But whether it's 17 or 447, the capital of Vermont, which is Montpelier,
I've been,
is
yeah,
actually the smallest capital in the United States,
yeah.
with only 9,000 people. So, which is still not bad for a city.
It's a beautiful little town too. They got it's a good beer town.
I mean, all of Vermont
Goes
is
without
pretty
saying.
good.
But I spent a long weekend in Montpelier. It's a really nice town. Good beer bars. You can go. We like just walk right into the state house, and walked around. It's very casual.
Everyone's just like, come on, we're fine.
We probably could have walked into the governor's office if we, had known exactly where it was. But
I mean, I feel like that's kind of also the vibes you get when you want beer from like Vermont, where like all these breweries, they started small and then they're just like, yeah, come have beer. And that just comes from Vermont itself, where, you have some of the most breweries per capita, a lot of maple syrup. Apparently, Vermont is the leader exporter of maple syrup, because why not? And I know they also have a large number of dairy cows.
yeah, yeah. I mean, less than it used to be a lot more, but
Yeah.
with the consolidation of the dairy industry moving more nationally out of Wisconsin and California too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Vermont was known for being a milk state. Yeah, and they're known pretty well for their cheese.
Yeah. For that same reason.
Yeah,
I actually found out at one point that because most of the immigrants obviously were coming from different parts of Europe into Vermont and into the Northeast in general. But as they were coming into Vermont, a lot of the Scottish ended up in there, and most of them were just dairy farmers. And at the point when they were all coming over, there was a rough, this is a rough estimate of like, I don't know, something like a large number of cows versus people. Like there were more cows than people in the state of Vermont. And so because of that, they're like, hey, there's a lot of cows. We all know how to make milk and make cheese. So we're gonna do that. And then that just kind of influxed into Vermont being one of the main kind of cheese and dairy manufacturers. Then obviously Wisconsin took over because more space.
Right.
But that's where you get a lot of those European and also German immigrants coming in and bringing in styles like this German style Pilsner and other beer styles as well, of basically sticking with those lagers because you got that cooler temperature. And then once we get back into, not really until like the 2014 era of craft beer is when we get all those, the hazy IPAs and that, that hazy boom
Yeah.
coming from Vermont and from, all of the breweries that we love in that area. Like Alchemist and all those guys. Which I know we were talking beforehand, going through the list of all the breweries, and we're like, I've drank there, I've
Yeah.
drank there, I've
Yeah.
drank there, I've
Yeah.
drank there, I've had that one.
Well, my best friend lived in Vermont, so I've lived in Burlington, so I've been up quite a lot in the past 10 years or so. So I've visited the city a lot, and also there's a lot of history with us with City Brew Tours.
Yeah,
Is the original home of City Brew Tours, Burlington, Vermont, and we still have the tours going
yep,
in town. And what a town to have a beer tours in, because just you see from our list right here, I mean, they're all right in town. Not all of these are in town. Switchback, Zero Gravity, and BB Co. Those are all right in the city. And I think Fiddlehead as well. Is Fiddlehead Brew
Fiddlehead's just outside.
outside? And then
Yeah,
there's other breweries nearby. We were talking about 14th Star and
won't even Von Trapp,
on Trap is
like,
very close by as well.
yeah,
And yes, was the descendants of the Von Trapp family, the famous
yeah,
Von Trapp family of uh, Sound of Music fame. They were real people, and they emigrated from Austria to the U.S. and they all lived in Vermont.
yeah.
That's where they made their home. So
So
Von,
that's the musical we need. We need not like the Sound of Music, but the Von Trapp family starting a brewery. I think that's the,
that's a great idea, and you do it as like you could also use all the songs from Sound of Music and just change the lyrics and
yeah,
make it about beer.
yeah, because and then that way we don't have to deal with rights. It's great. So I think we're
Yeah,
onto something.
one of our attendees here is Uncle ran for governor of Vermont, and he's also drinking from a Red Sox glass. He's got the full New England vibe going. Matt, tell us where you are. You might be somewhere that's not New England, but he'll tell us eventually.
He'll tell us. We got
He
this.
is in South Carolina.
South Carolina. There you go. Still east.
Grew up in Massachusetts. Guess what, Matt? So did the kid.
That's Mike for
That's
anyone
me.
that is not watching and can't see Mike point at himself.
Well, I say the kid. I mean, it should be clear who I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
it's not me. We all know that.
I am, yeah, he's from Amherst. Okay,
Oh,
Amherst, beautiful.
nice.
That's where UMass is. And yeah, I'm from Worcester, Mass. So Worcester, Shrewsbury, actually. There you go.
But
Make,
as you were saying, Mike, with City Brew Tour starting in 2008, some of the beer that we're having, Zero Gravity, 2005. So even predates doing all the tours that we've
yeah,
been doing for, what's that now? I can't do math. 2005, Yeah, a long time, 16 years.
Yeah.
But they're going on next year. Zero Gravity will be celebrating 20 years of beer,
That's nice.
which is really cool. So I hope, not that I hope, I know that they will definitely do some really nice anniversary styles. Most of these breweries are starting, some of them started early 2000s. However, as we talked about, like, a lot of that beer history and kind of roots, um, Vermont was one of the states that actually had their own prohibition before prohibition.
I
So
don't know.
yeah, in the 1800s, they actually were one of the 1880s were one of the first states to actually basically outlaw brewing and alcohol and kind of get it all away. And then actual federally prohibition happened in 1920. So that's where you may have had fantastic breweries up until then and
Yeah.
long history, but you also have that very long history of prohibition and kind of fighting that. And then, as we've talked with other brewers in the Northeast, that you also have all of that kind of balance of after prohibition and then control of ingredients of like not a lot of hops growing in that area. So then they got to get them from Washington, and it's kind of like this battle, kind of just a difficulty. So you don't really get a lot of those breweries until that 2013, 2014, early 2000s kind of era.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, during 2008 era, as all those breweries were starting to come up, most of them allowed unlimited free tastings.
Ooh,
Yeah, which is
nice.
why City Brew Tours was born. So
Even if we go back to the Vermont Pub and Brewery, which is the first craft brewery in Vermont, that was only in 1988.
right.
So even, so that's a long time to not have craft beer. Luckily we're living now in the golden age of American beer. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost, if you think of the beginning of their first prohibition, almost 100 years
Mm.
of no beer, or at least, well, no legal beer. Let's set that straight. There's
Yeah,
definitely,
I would imagine there was probably a lot of beer making happening. Well, if you get access to hops, but hops can be grown in parts of New York, so maybe there was some.
which, and most of New York, the hops were growing up until about the 1880s, until there were multiple like diseases that happened to the hops. There's types of blight and bacteria, and then there were mites and things like that. So the late 1800s up until about early like 1906, New York State had a lot of hops, but then they all got decimated by all those crops. And then with the effect of prohibition shortly after, then they obviously didn't all grow. None of them grew back until really the past decade, which is a big push for all these states to bring back local grown hops, malts, and kind of bring back all these ingredients so that people can make locally sourced agriculture, bring back that industry that was a huge part, of just drinking and culture and safe beverages throughout, I mean, history in general.
Yeah, that's wild because I was just reading. They went over 100 years, like you said, without a brewery. That's like
That's a
Vermont,
lot.
my Vermont.
I am curious. I'm trying to see, but I'm curious if because they also have so much maple syrup, if they have anyone has tried making like a fermented maple syrup beverage.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know about that. I know I've had maple beers. I've seen the maple in beer, and maple, in my experience, tends to get swallowed up
Yeah.
by other ingredients in the beer. I haven't really had a maple beer where I was like, whoa, that's mapley. When you have like a maple, I love maple bars like donuts.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's just like maple. You get all that flavor. But with a beer, it tends to get hidden in some of these maple beers. You
Or
can let
it's
it
too much.
get a good maple beer.
Yeah. I've had it in cider before, and but it becomes
Right.
like really too mapley, and it's like just tastes like syrup. But apparently you can distill it down like you can with like agave and molasses, like you would for rum or tequila, flipped. So you can make acerum, which is a maple brandy, or you can make Misky,
Oh, there you go.
which is a maple spirit that's made by converting the maple syrup into a wort that's fermented by yeast to produce alcohol. So that would basically, so I guess Misky would be like a almost like a maple
I like that
beer,
on ski.
Misky. Then that wort is distilled into 80 proof spirit and aged in barrels for a year. So kind of like a whiskey almost. A Misky. A maple whiskey. Misky. There it
Oh,
is.
Misky.
There it is.
I love it.
Misky.
I talk a bit about our friends here at Zero Gravity, great brewery. You maybe you've noticed they get a lot more distribution. I don't know if let us know if you get Zero Gravity where you're at. I know you can get it in most of New England. I've seen it in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it out here, but I know that they took over the brewery for Magic Hat Brewing. So that it's not the brewery itself, but they took over the space, and so
Yeah.
they have a lot more production now because they have a downtown Burlington brew pub where they also used to do their brewing. Well, they do some brewing there, but the majority of it's done in a bigger space now, so they have a lot more output. But yeah, really great brewery, and we know they're the they're fairly close to the Vermont Pub and Brewery. Like I said,
Yeah.
where it had their original home. They actually opened a flatbread restaurant, American Flatbread,
Ooh.
Burlington Hearth, and they also brewed beer at the flatbread place. And almost 20 years later, Zero Gravity is one of the more popular beers coming out of Vermont, breweries, I should say. And so it's really great. And we have another beer in the box, the Conehead. And Conehead is a real staple for people as far as having a hazy IPA, the New England style IPA, the Conehead. So if you have that later on, really nice beer.
Or if you've already had it, because I know some of
Maybe yeah, you get
our
the box,
yeah, some of our fans they get into it as soon as it comes in. They're like, which ones do I have to save? I will say that the Conehead Hazy, I've had it. It's fantastic. And then the regular Conehead is also fantastic. So Zero Gravity, and they do a wide range of styles, which is what I kind of love about them. So you do like the Green State that we're having, classic style Pilsner. Then the Conehead Hazy, nice, light, hazy. They do the Frankie, which is basically it's a sour, but it's like almost closer to the taste of like a Radler. So you have like that nice, like light, citrusy fruit sour to it. Nice, easy, and they do a lot of like they'll do even some like wheat sour beers as well. But with them taking over kind of that Magic Hat space, we were asked if the Magic Hat is done. They are still around.
they're
So
doing fine.
don't worry. Especially number 9 is still there. It still exists. They're up in Rochester. So they is what I'm seeing now is that they moved up to um their headquarters is still in Burlington, Vermont, but they also have a location in Rochester as well. So they're kind of all over the place, it looks like. But they're still brewing. They're still kind of going around. Although they are owned by the Florida Ice and Farm Company.
Yeah, I remember that they were sold to somebody, the Florida Farm and Ice Company.
Yeah, Fifco. Yeah,
Fifco.
yeah.
Fifco. That's great. Uh,
Uh,
and I agree with Matt. I used to love the number 9.
oh, number 9. Yeah.
And it's still there. You can still get it, but yeah, that's a Vermont classic. And they don't say, I mean, it's like a mystery. They don't tell you what kind of fruit is in there.
Oh,
Uh,
and Magic number
Magic Hat
nine,
number 9. I think it's apricots. That
the
they never
mystery fruit.
say. It's got a real apricot flavor. Uh,
And
uh,
maybe it's notes of apricot. Maybe it's coming from a specific hop or yeast strain. Who knows?
and even I'm looking at their website now. They say it's a mystery. They
It's
won't
apricots. It's apricots.
they won't say, but yeah, we used to have that a lot at a bar I used to work in. Oh, I would go for that number 9 a lot. Yeah, that was good beer.
Well, I've noticed like here in the beer industry, if we don't want to say if brewers or anyone doesn't want to say exactly what fruit it is, especially like apricots, nectarines. I don't know why they get a bad rap in beer, but they do for some reason. It's stone fruit. It has a stone fruit flavor.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know if
good.
that's just to be like depending on how your palate perceives those flavors, if you're getting more of the apricot versus nectarine versus plum. Um, but I've seen that and I've talked to brewers and they're all like, no, it's just stone fruit. And that's like with like if you have a Belgian, like a Belgian double or a tripel, they're always going to say notes of like stone fruit. And they're not going to be very specific on which stone fruit it is, even though there's a wide that's like tropical flavors. I'm like, are we
Yeah.
pineapple, mango?
Well, as you know, a lot of those flavors can come from the hops,
Exactly.
but with that number 9,
There's
there's
something.
in there.
Yeah.
It's a fruited beer. I was just taking the deep dive on FIFCO, and they have a lot of big names: Labatt Blue, Genesee, Seagram's, Imperial, which is I think a Costa Rican beer. No, no, it's a Dominican beer, I think, and
Oh,
Lipton Hard Iced Tea. So they've bought a lot of these companies in addition to Magic Hat.
so they're probably similar on like the same size as like Tilray, where
Yeah,
they're like coming in and getting some of these smaller craft breweries, but they're not like it's not InBev or Colson
right.
Moores. They're just literally just like getting them and providing more distribution,
Yeah, yeah.
which is great. I mean, if especially like Magic Hat, like it was everywhere
Mhm.
for the longest time, and then it kind of went away, but now I'm sure I still see it
Yeah.
periodically.
We craft beer people. We like to have our breweries small. And then when
Yeah.
they get big, we're like, we don't like you anymore.
Yeah. Except your beer's
Except
still good.
except well, I'm gonna give Zero Gravity a pass because they're good.
But Zero Gravity,
They're still pretty small
they're
in
still
comparison.
pretty small. Yeah, yeah. All the beers that we have, especially in this box, and we can't like just glaze over them like Fiddlehead, Frost, Von Trapp, Burlington Beer Co. A lot of these been around for a very long time and are very well-known names, but they're still not major distribution. You might get them in a couple other states, but not much
Mhm.
further than the Northeast in general.
Yeah, and
And
Alchemist, we talked a little about before, which is the makers of Heady Topper. For our beer fans out there,
yeah,
you know, considered the original hazy IPA. Uh, there's obviously more debate about that, but the beers are still great. They're
still good.
still they're really really good. So
And
I
they're
mean,
shipping all the way out to California,
found it at my local grocery store. Yeah, so I have a Heady in my fridge right now.
which I think is fantastic that they're because a lot of small breweries haven't quite figured out the whole like shipping across the country, not just distribution wise, but also if you're dealing with unpasteurized beer, like you don't want to risk it spoiling or degradation or anything like that. But Heady Topper's got enough hops in there that I'm sure it's tastes
And
the same.
some brewers want to stay small.
Yeah.
I was talking to I'm talking like 15 years ago. We went to a place called Cape Cod Beer on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I said, "When can we get some of this in New York?" Because that's where I lived, and they were like, "No plans for that.
Yeah.
We don't really even sell them past the outside of the Cape. So we're doing fine. I'm like, okay, that was 15 years ago. If you go to Cape Cod Beer today, they're
Everywhere.
still
It
they're
was just right there.
very chill. You can
Good
find
for
Cape
'em.
Cod Red in almost every restaurant on the Cape. So their distribution is, and whatever their model, their business model is, they're
It's
doing
working.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's working.
Sometimes
And
brewers have ambitions that they can reach too high to the sky and then they end up crashing. But
well, and that's kind of the pattern that we've seen, and why, especially in the past year or so, past couple years, we've been seeing a lot of big names like crash, and like either they've tried to get too big or they've tried staying small and they're not being able to produce enough. Um, and I know like we were talking earlier as well with like even in Vermont, Hermit Thrush, fantastic brewery,
one of my favorites.
and RIP, they just had to make the call this year of sorry, we just can't do it anymore. And you got to respect that of it's a business, and if it's becoming too much, it is what it is. But fantastic beer, fantastic brewery.
They're
Um,
exclusively sours, so
yeah, their sours have
that
messed
was
me up a
niche,
few times.
and it worked for them, as long as it did. But I guess whatever the
It is,
market.
yeah. But even though we have sours in the box, my Pilsner is out, which means we're gonna go to see yours is too. We're gonna go to where what Vermont is known for, and that is that hazy IPA. So we got that lovely from Frost Beer Works, that Plush double IPA. I know on the label it says Heinsberg, Vermont. It's not Burlington, but as we mentioned a couple months ago, we're getting some of these breweries that are right within or just outside the city limits of these cities to get you guys some wider options so that we're not limiting ourselves and we're getting able to get some of these amazing breweries that you still aren't
Aroma,
able to get.
yeah.
Sure.
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 Whatever you want to do, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frost, real good New England IPAs, and this is a freshie. This is just
Oh,
brewed a couple months ago, so should be
oh yeah.
real.
And it is coming out like that fruit juice you want with that hazy, lovely foam on there. The nucleation is still fairly tight for a double IPA, which is nice. Always love that to see that with that sugar in there. Oh yeah,
It'll be Avenger style here.
there you go. City Brew Tours.
Oh, I can
Frost.
smell it. Now that talk about tropical fruit. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you get it right off the nose. That's nice. If y'all are opening that one up in our group, let us know how you're digging it, or if you're digging it.
So good. So good. That's exactly what you want with that double IPA. You get all that citrusy, that fruity, that haze, little bit of that thicker
Ooh,
mouth feel on there.
yeah,
Um, not quite pulpy, which I have had IPAs that are pulpy, but it's getting it's what you want, especially when you want a 8 percenter.
yeah. It has
Uh
a real good color of a double IPA too. It's
mhm.
dark orange haze.
Yeah, it is just, I mean, it has that orange juice, like almost like a apricot juice. I know there's no apricot in this one, but
No, Avery. No, this is the all we know that with this one, all the hop flavor comes from the what all the tropical fruit flavor comes from the hops. Yeah, for
oh
sure.
yeah. No, and and that's the cool thing with like Frost Beer Works, which they're a little bit younger than Zero Gravity. They've only been
Right.
around since 2015, but they've gone heavy into IPAs, double IPAs,
Yeah.
and let's just utilize these hops as we're getting that access. Again, it's about 10 years ago at this point. However, 10 years ago, it was still, trying to order even stuff off Amazon 10 years ago was much harder than it is nowadays. And so trying to get access to those hops and all these flavors wasn't quite as easy as it is now. But still, I mean, they're knocking it out of the park, and you just can't not enjoy this beer. I mean, you can.
I don't know if I've ever had anything from Frost that wasn't a
No,
IPA.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much this one is double dry hopped, so
Yeah.
you are going to get that extra aromas on there. Um, but yeah,
See,
you're
evidence that there was a brown and a coffee porter at some point.
but I think they do hit pretty much mostly those IPAs,
Oh yeah.
which is really nice.
I've always found this with Frost too, is they're bold flavored, like strong flavors. Hmm.
Which
Give
is
this
good though, but it's not overpowering strong. Cause like you can have like I've had some recently I just drank the Smutty Nose Big A, which is like they brought it back for the 30th anniversary. Which is insane that Smutty Nose has been around for that long, but they have been. Um that's in New Hampshire for all of our listeners. But it is a like reminiscent of like your West Coast double IPAs, strong bitterness, hit you in the back, like bold, bold, bold. And but when I want like a double, it's I want this. I want this hazy. I want
yeah.
nice, soft, pillowy is a really fun. I love that that word for like a hazy like this, where it's soft and pillowy on like the palate, but
Mm,
you can just it's bold in flavor, but it's not bold in bitterness,
yes,
which is nice.
absolutely agree with that. And the folks in our the attendees here are loving it as well. They're
And
both
I'm looking at to confirm all of us with Frost Beer Works. Their core beers are all imperial or non-imperial or standard IPAs. They have some rotating imperial New England IPAs. They also have some like experimental American IPAs, which is a category I've been having a hard time with lately. I don't know if you've experienced this, Mike. However, some places, some newer breweries are calling them American IPAs. However, I think of an American IPA as like closer to a West Coast
West Coast.
IPA.
Yeah.
However, the other day I had an American IPA and it was hazy,
Okay.
and I was like, guys, we need to talk about this. This is not an American IPA. So I think that term is being just like the term IPA was loose for a couple years. I think the term American IPA is getting a little out of hand. So that's my personal that's my personal opinion. Sorry for everyone.
Well, it was
But
originally called American IPA because you wanted to differentiate from the British IPA, which is the original IPA.
right,
In
of course.
we're not involved with India. That was the British. That was a marketing tool for them to say this beer can make the trip to India. It's such a because
Yeah.
of the preservatives in the hops, but the American IPA is definitely that West Coast style. The Sierra Nevada is one of the ones that's
Mhm.
credited with that, and the New England, of course, is the haziness. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, and now we're getting like the cold IPA.
Which is great. Not knocking it. I've had great cold
Nothing
IPAs.
wrong with that. Perfectly acceptable.
They're huge.
But there's a confusion with the cold IPA and the hoppy lager, the IPL.
The IPL. Yeah.
IPL. So
I did get clarification on that from a
yeah,
brewer.
please, because
And
I have heard some, but yeah,
so an IPL is an India Pale Lager. So they're using the hop and malt bill of an IPA, but they are actually using lager yeast.
right.
But a cold IPA is still going to be closer to like a Kolsch style ale. So they're
Okay.
using ale yeast, but knocking that temperature of fermentation down.
Okay.
So it's still an IPA because it's using the ale yeast, but they're knocking it usually right around like 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold for an IPA. Like IPAs are going to usually be around like 72, 75 and that. So it's still colder. It's not as cold as like a lager, which is going to be, you know, in your anywhere from 35 to 55. But so it's going to be in that 65, maybe 60 kind of range. So it's
Gotcha.
creating the same aspect of a Kolsch style where you get that lightness, you get the crispness, but you still get the boldness of the hops.
Right.
So, because with like an IPL, you're fighting the lager yeast is going to eliminate most of that bitterness through fermentation. So you're kind of fighting that, both an IPA, cold IPA, you're not really fighting that as much. So that's the difference. But also, just like with IPA, marketing is marketing. So like, is it a hoppy lager? Is it a cold? Is it a IPL?
Yeah.
Kind of. I've also same thing. We could talk hours about the different variations of Pilsners as well. You
Oh
know, because
yeah.
you have obviously you have the German, you have the Czech, you've got the Italian, the Bohemian, the New Zealand, the American, and then you now have the hoppy Pilsner, the
Yeah.
citrus Pilsner, the hazy Pilsner.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's
Well,
kind of that
like the
whole,
American Pilsner is like a Budweiser is an American Pilsner. So then you have to like say, well, I mean,
yeah,
craft American Pilsner,
yeah,
which is a slightly
not
hoppier.
an American lager, an American, yeah.
Yeah. It
Uh,
can be a wild ride. And I'm glad everybody's on the ride with us
oh, everyone's having a blast.
because
Uh,
we're not getting too wonky here, are we? No, it's a beer podcast. We're talking about beer.
Talk about beer, and this is what I've kind of like wondered. It's like, oh, should I get super nerdy? Should I talk about all this science, all this history? And then everyone in the chat always chimes in. RJ, Jonathan, they're always like, no, like we're here for the nerdiness. We're here for, so it always helps me like really, like, okay, I will talk about this. I will share all this random knowledge that I cannot use anywhere else in my life except on this podcast or during tours. But
Very glad to have our participants.
I
Thank you.
do want to say that out of all the beers that Frost Beer Works does do, only I'm seeing on their list, only 4 are not IPAs. And I'm seeing at least 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 beers. 4
Yeah,
out of 17 are not IPAs.
gotcha.
So they're definitely going heavy into that, but they're hitting
And
the
a lot
whole
of those may
gamut.
have been one-offs.
Yeah. Some of them are barrel aged. Some of them they do have a Belgian pale ale. They do have a brown ale. They do have an imperial stout. So they're still hitting it, and then they have barrel aged imperial stout, which is probably the same one, just barrel aged. So they're still hitting that imperial, that double, but they're hitting playing with some of those other yeast, other grains as well. But they're also doing sour IPAs and then hitting all those other IPAs as well.
The sour IPA, I haven't seen a lot of that
I like them.
lately. I used to like them a lot, but I haven't really. I mean, but Hudson Valley was always the one that would be doing them for me. Hudson Valley Brewing, which I'm sure you get at your bar where you are at.
Oh yeah. No, I just had one. I'll let you entertain the folks, but I just had a sour IPA recently that they're always a fun style because you get the bitterness, but you get, the tartness, fruitiness. Um, but I feel like they are a missed kind of beer style that they a lot of people are almost afraid to do them because they're afraid that maybe the flavors might counteract, but the flavors are so complementary that they work so well together.
Right on. Uh, I just want to say about some of these other breweries, a couple of these breweries we have are fantastic. Switchback, for example, is 100% employee-owned brewery,
Which is fantastic.
which is amazing. And they really have done that from the beginning, I believe, or I don't know the history exactly, but it's totally a real thing that the people that work there are the owners of the brewery, which is like, which would make you want to get up and go to work in the morning. Like
Yeah.
you gotta make the money for your company. Yeah. Yeah, the Green Bay Packers of beer, says Matt. That's very good. Thank you, Matt. Uh, oh, Ben is saying Switchback is fantastic, super dog friendly too. Ben, where are you at? Are you in the Vermont area? I know we got to like just put it
We
in the, well, he
yeah.
did the City Brew Tour a few years ago.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
up on that.
Iowa. There
He's
you
in
go.
Iowa, right, right.
All right.
We do we? Well, I think we have City Brew Tours in Iowa right now, don't we? Not the,
It may have been discontinued,
oh,
but don't quote me on that.
oh. Well, I just want to talk about Switchback, but also Von Trapp,
Yeah.
wonderful brewery. Oh, we talked about that, and
But they are still wonderful. We're not downplaying Von Trapp. We
not
love
that,
you, Von
and
Trapp.
something that Von Trapp does, especially in Vermont, that in the world of like the New England IPA, they make lagers. They make
Yeah.
European style lagers, and they do them pretty well. You have the Dunkel in the fridge there. That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really nice Dunkel. I've had it a few times. That's an excellent beer. And a Radler,
The
which is
Radler, yeah, I have drank way too much of it recently, because we had it on at the bar. And apparently a lot of people I found out I thought a Radler would be a great summer beer that for like your
yeah,
non-beer drinkers, people would love. Apparently, people don't know what a Radler is.
right.
And they're just like, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to drink it. But this one, and for if you haven't had this in the can, it is a fantastic beer, light lager, mix of grapefruit juice,
Right.
easy to drink. You can just chug this all day, every day. I don't necessarily suggest that, but you can do it.
I'm
Uh,
encouraging binge drinking.
I'm not encouraging. Yeah, I am. I am. Do it. It's great.
3.9% or lower, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, 4.9,
That's not right.
5%. It is 5%.
It's five. That's a strong Radler.
Yeah.
That's
But
a beer drinker's Radler.
yeah, that's why I said I should not suggest that you drink it all day, every day. But it is a perfect summer beach beer. If you're going to the beach, take that Radler with you. You already drank the lager, so you can't take that one with you. You could take the can, I guess, but that's not really gonna help us out. But you know, it's a super nice light, but they're doing those lagers. They're kind of doing the opposite of what our friends over at Frost Beer Works are doing, where they're going in on those Imperial IPAs. We've got Von Trapp doing the lagers. You've got Zero Gravity hitting everything. Same with like Burlington Beer Works or Burlington Beer Company. They're kind of hitting all styles and knocking all of them out of the park, whether it's the Goza that we have in the box or their IPAs are always
Their
really
hazy
good.
IPAs I used to
Really.
swear on them that say they were better than or would stand up to any hazy IPAs around. They had one called the Wizard, and the Wizard to me was like, that's it. Like that's you want to get into a hazy IPA, get the Wizard. I mean, I was like a BB Co acolyte. I really just I like I said, I used to visit my friend, and he lived by the airport. He'd come pick me up, and I'd be like, "Are we going to BB Co?
Yeah,
We're
that's
going
where
to
you got
BB,"
to go.
and we would go every time. And I always, and that was when they were in Williston. They had a space in Williston. The space they have now, I don't know if you know about it. Beautiful downtown space, big, lots of tables, lots of rooms, lots of beer. Beautiful space. Really done well for themselves, BB Co. and they waited. They didn't rush into trying to get something going sooner than they were ready. They waited until they were ready to open a bigger space, and it's worked out great for them. Really, really fantastic. And I do want to say, I think there might be a misprint on the thingy, because I do believe the Radler is 3.9.
It may be.
Yeah, I think I saw it on the can. Also, it's on Untapped. But
We were
yeah,
trying to limit drinking. We're trying to cool you guys down. Uh, but 3.9 makes more sense.
Radler, Radlers are like, that's that midnight beer when you've been out all night and you're like, I want to have one more. Have a Radler.
We'll see. I do the opposite. I
Oh,
like
do
to
you?
start my day with it. Because it's 3.9%. So like it's my mimosa,
I
you
think it's
know.
when you reach the end of the night, you're like, where's the barley wine?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do. Have been known to end my day with a 13% stout. So,
I've been there. I've done the same.
yeah. I'm young. I'm agile. I can do that for or I probably shouldn't, but but I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just having a good time. We're just having a good time talking. Oh,
Fiddlehead.
Fiddlehead. I was gonna say Fiddlehead. I've had their IPAs for years. Fantastic. Like
Yeah,
especially in this one is their classic Fiddlehead IPA. It
which is an
hits,
American style IPA.
yeah, which an actual American style IPA. There's no haziness in this one. Um, but if you open it up and you're like, it is hazy, and you want to correct us, throw it in the chat, throw it in the comments for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
Uh, Let us know what you think. How you're liking all these different IPAs, all these different beers. And of course, like, sure, we have, multiple IPAs in this box, but it's Burlington. It's Burlington, Vermont. This is where theoretically, I say this theoretically, but theoretically, the hazy originated. There is debate, but um, I think we can all agree that it originated in Vermont.
Yeah, and I opened a Heady Topper the other night, and one of the things they say on a Heady Topper is to drink it from the can.
Yeah.
They said that from the beginning, and we always wondered why. And a theory that I've heard is that they didn't want to scare their customer base by having this cloudy beer.
Okay.
They wanted you to taste it without seeing it, so that you would go, "Wow, that's good," as an IPA. And then, but now, of course, we want to see the hazy.
Yeah.
But back then, when they first started it, that was the idea. It was like, so I poured in a glass myself because it's a beautiful beer in the
It is
glass.
a beautiful beer. Yeah. And you
So
want those aromas, you want that aromatics because is it double dry hopped? I believe it's still double dry
yeah,
hopped.
yeah.
Yeah. So you get all those aromas, all that flavor. You want that in a glass. I've also heard that the brewer specifically said afterwards that in a can, it also allows the hops where you don't get influenced by the aromas and you just get the flavors of the hops. So you get like basically the true flavor in a perfect order on the palate.
Interesting.
I
That's a
th-
good,
I feel
like,
like both are accurate and both are probably true.
well, that one
You,
came from Brewer.
yeah,
So
but
that's
I don't know if
interesting.
he's retconning himself or not. He's
They
like,
still put it on
actually,
but we want to smell the beer. We here at City Brew
we
Tours,
do.
we're beer smellers. There's a better term for that, beer
Beer
smeller.
sniffing? No, nope, that's worse. Uh, Beer aromaticizers.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm making up words now. This is what happens when you have a double IPA.
Aromaticus.
Aroma- I don't know how I feel about
That sounds like we're
aromatic.
against aromas, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Aroma. Wait. I want to say
Aromatophobia.
I want to say something like romanticist, aromanticist,
Oh, that sounds, yeah, that sounds
aromanticist.
aromanticists.
Is that I think that's
I like it.
so for all of our listeners, for all of our viewers, we'll do for this month, we will do a vote. Is aromanticist the correct term for somebody that wants to get the full aromas from a
Mhm.
beer? We'll take a poll. We'll see what happens over the next month.
Or would you rather us be beer smellers?
Beer smellers or aromanticists. I'm
Uh,
fine with either one. I feel like beer sniffers is a little too aggressive.
yeah, yeah. Well, I did say oh, RJ says beer smellers, one of our
Beer smellers. Okay. All right. I got
attendees. Matt
oh,
says
but see, Matt,
that's just is a lot.
it is aromanticist
We're
is a
simple
lot.
folk.
Beer smellers.
Smell the
All right,
beer.
here at City Brew Tours Beer Club at CBTBC, we condone beer smelling. We are beer smellers.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
I'll come out right now as a beer smeller. Yes.
yeah, my name is Jonathan. I'm a beer smeller.
Hi,
Uh,
Jonathan.
thank you.
I guess that's it. Well, it's growing on me now.
Yeah, beer smeller.
And then we need to make t-shirts.
A beller, maybe a beller if we just want to
A beerler.
beerler.
I
No,
lost the thread on that one. No.
no, yeah, we went too far.
Yeah, I think maybe
Yeah, I would agree with
make
you, Matt.
t-shirts. I am a beer smeller.
Yes, I agree with you, Matt. If you have
Beer
more
smellers
than
enough.
one frost, if you get multiple 8% Imperial IPAs, you will definitely be a beer smeller.
Yeah.
Uh, Beer Smellers Anonymous, BSA.
I'm a member of the BSA.
A member of the BSA. All of CBTBC are BSAs. We
I hope
condone
so.
this.
I hope
Yeah,
you will.
I hope. Yeah.
Matt just pointed out that's the Boy Scouts of America.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, we should probably.
We got to rethink the
I
whole thing.
think we are also with that. We are coming um close to the end of our podcast because I think we have reached a pivotal moment where our beer smelling and Boy Scouts are becoming synonymous. Synonymous? Synonymous. Is that right?
Anonymous is correct. Yes.
Synonymous. Okay. But if there are any last minute questions from all of our viewers about Burlington, about the breweries, beer in general, beer smelling, we're always here. With that, Mike, I am curious, what is your go-to? I know you said you haven't had a beer in a little bit before tonight,
No.
but what's your go-to summer beer? We're coming to the end of summer, which is weird to say because
Yeah.
it's already coming close. Our next beer box is going to be in September. So, what's your go-to summer beer
For me,
or style? It doesn't have to be a specific.
I'll go specific because I'm in California. So Russian River is a excellent brewery, the home of Pliny the Elder, which is the kind of the sister beer of the Heady Topper. But they make a beer called STS, which is a 5.2% unfiltered Pilsner and
Ooh.
just always is on the money. And so for me, summer, I mean, even winter, I mean, I go for it, but especially summer, the STS, I like a good hearty Pilsner. I don't want, 4.5% is a little low. I want to be at 5. Budweiser's at 5. We can do better, folks. All right.
We can
Get
always do better.
a little up, a little bit above. That's all I'm asking. So yeah, the STS from Russian River.
Would that be a
Oh,
hazy pilsner?
I would not call it that. No,
No, it's an unfiltered pilsner.
unfiltered. You can see some bits in there, but
Okay, nice. I go back and forth on my beers in the summer because I do love a good Mexican lager. Not Corona, not Modelo, like craft Mexican lager. But they've been hard to find this summer. I've been looking for them past like
Really?
month or so, and I haven't been able to find any craft Mexican lagers. And I think it's because everyone brewed them earlier in the year to get them out in the summer, and now
Yeah.
they're all gone.
Interesting.
But I love any type of like Kolsch style. But in the same regards, I've what have I been drinking? I've actually been drinking several Radlers this summer. Ah, not just Von Trapp, but a few others. And it's just the tartness, the lightness.
And
I've
that's
just
a
been,
when, like you said, you can have a few.
you can have a few. Usually they're going to be in that 3.9, 4% range because it's half beer, half grapefruit.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to be able to
When I
knock
was
those
at Arts
down.
and Crafts brew pub in New York as a beer tender, all the summertime we would do the Schafferhofer.
Oh, yeah. So good.
Schafferhofer is a Radler with grapefruit juice, and we served it in a really tall glass. So it looked great. It was easy drinking, so it was popular,
Yeah.
So I know you told me you were selling
The
the
Von
Von
Trapp.
the bar you work at. Just tell them it's like a Schafferhofer, and you can be like,
I've
"Oh, it does."
tried. I've tried. And people are like, I don't know what a Schopenhauer
It
is.
does have grapefruit. It is grapefruit flavored. This
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, no, it's grapefruit juice in there. And I know we answered it via text, but I will say this out loud. Yes, the City Brew Tours in Burlington, Vermont does run all year round.
Yeah.
If there is a really heavy snowstorm, they will practice safety. But
I could imagine a tour being canceled.
yeah, it
Because
happens.
of
Same in New
snowfall.
York, same in anywhere else. But in general, we run all the tours in all of our cities. And we do still, I did confirm, we do still have it in Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh,
It is
nice.
still running. But all of our tours run 12 months out of the year, unless there is a significant issue with like a bomb cyclone or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Burlington can get some serious snow.
yeah,
So, I mean, it
yeah.
does happen.
So unless there's a safety concern, they're going to run those 12 months out of the year.
Yeah, they'll be going. And, people in Burlington are used to that. So, unless it's like 2 feet of snow, they'll probably still do the tour.
They'll still run it.
Yeah.
And RJ is also a big fan of those Mexican lagers in the summer. They're just so nice. Nice, especially a lot of craft breweries are already mixing lime into their Mexican lagers. Like
yeah, I like that idea.
Here in New York, the Big Alice Brewing does their pontoon party, and it's a Mexican lager with lime and a little bit of salt, and it's
Okay.
nice, light. It's like a Corona with lime, but already brewed together.
Mhm.
And to bring it full circle,
Please.
our friends over at 14th Star over in Burlington, they do a Mexican lager with lime and salt, and it is fantastic. I've had it multiple times. Nice, light, easy drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Like most of our other breweries, unfortunately, they don't distribute. So we have to do a road trip to Vermont, and just drink beer. And drink
But
way too many double IPA.
wherever you are in the country, there's going to be craft beer in your neighborhood. So
There will be, yes.
take out the Google Maps, put in craft brewery. It might be just down the street from you.
And just like Mike said earlier, we are in the golden age of craft brewing.
Mm.
There's over 56 breweries in Burlington, Vermont. Just in Burlington, like that's not even like Vermont, that's just Burlington, like that area. There's also mostly just trees in the rest of the state, so it's mostly Burlington. But we are, I think the last number I heard is 9,600 in the country craft beer.
Yeah,
like
and like you said, like some of these breweries are closing, but a lot of them are opening.
a
So
lot of them are
it still
opening,
keeps going up. Yeah.
yeah. So we are like you're gonna find if there's maybe not a style you like, but there will be a craft brewery near, probably within walking distance, most likely. Definitely a drive. Practice responsibility, drink responsibly, maybe get it to
Do
go.
have one within walking distance of my
Yeah.
house.
See, and I don't. But
Wait, you
uh
don't?
not I don't, not where I live in Brooklyn, but if I
Brooklyn?
go to one, then there's like five within walking distance.
Yeah.
So
It's
they're
weird
all
about
in
Brooklyn.
pocket.
There's five in
Yeah,
a
they're all in
area.
pockets all over. Yeah. But with that, I feel like we've covered everything. I feel like we've gotten everyone acquainted with Burlington, Vermont,
Yeah.
acquainted with the beer scene. We've hit everything from their lagers to the IPAs. I think this is a perfect moment of talking about this wonderful city, wonderful state for the past hour to say cheers, to say see you next month. We've got fantastic breweries, new boxes, new cities. We're ever expanding. And just like I mentioned last time, uh, we're still doing the same thing, just like with this box. We'll have that city and have some breweries a little bit outside to get you guys some of these fantastic breweries that you just can't get regularly. So, with that, Mike, do you have any last statements?
I just want to say thanks to the attendees. They've been very complimentary, and I appreciate that. Especially to you, Jonathan. I don't know if you can go back and I'll check all the comments, but
Yeah,
you're doing a great job.
I I love it when I mean I will always say we're doing a great job, but I like it when everyone else says it as well.
If other
Uh
people agree, that makes it that makes
yeah,
it up.
yeah, yeah. But with that, we will say cheers to all of y'all. We will see you all next month. We've got a fantastic lineup that we're working on. And yes, RJ, Philly's going to be a great one. Great
Oh, the
beers
cat's out of the
coming to
bag
you.
already.
Cat's already out. Yeah, we get it out of there early. Um, it's going to be a good one. It's a fantastic breweries, great beer.
It's got to be hard to
Um,
beat this one, but
yeah, it is, but we will try. We will try. Uh,
no singing of the Fly Eagles Fly song.
and that is
Oh,
our
who
cue.
your co-host is. They might do that.
Depending on who it is, they might. They might.
Matt has asked not to have that happen, but if the whoever it
I
is,
mean,
move them.
I don't know how many double IPAs will be on the podcast. So if there are more than two, maybe that might come. But with that, I am gonna say cheers, everybody. Good night, and see you guys all next month. All right. See you
Thanks,
guys
everybody.
ever. Thank you guys.